Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Gratitude is like seasoning. A little goes a long way. She skipped it entirely and went straight for the full-course meal of entitlement. Today in the rLounge, the consequences of forgetting to say thanks. Sister-in-law said I was a bad mother. We cut off the financial help we'd been providing and removed her from the will. I'm scrolling through the family group chat when my spouse points at their phone. Did you see this? There's a screenshot floating around. It's my sister-in-law's personal social media. The post is vague enough to avoid naming anyone directly, but anyone who knows our family would figure it out in about 30 seconds. She's talking about how some people shouldn't be parents, how negligence comes in different forms, and how she's concerned about the well-being of children in situations where the parent is fundamentally unprepared for the responsibility. She goes on about how money doesn't fix bad parenting, and how people need to recognize their own limitations. My spouse mentions that they saw it a few days ago but didn't want to start anything. That's the first thing that bothers me. Not just that it's out there, but that I'm finding out about it after the fact, and that my spouse thought staying quiet was the best move. I don't say much to that. I just start looking through her other posts. The pattern becomes obvious pretty fast. Over the last several months, she's been posting about parenting failures, sharing what sounds like specific situations but vague enough for plausible deniability. There are comments about people who have kids for the wrong reasons, posts about how some parents are just selfish, pictures with captions about how motherhood requires a certain type of person. One post even talks about how it's sad when children suffer because their parent chose the easy way out. I screenshot everything, not because I'm planning to do anything with it yet, but because I need to see the full scope of what's happening here. My spouse finally brings it up properly at breakfast the next morning. They're not defensive, just tired. They admit that family members have been asking them questions about whether everything is okay with us, whether the kids are being taken care of properly, whether I'm handling things well. Apparently, extended family has been picking up on these posts and connecting dots that shouldn't exist. I asked my spouse directly, how long has this been going on? They say they're not sure. A few months at least, maybe longer. I need to understand where this is coming from, so I pull up her profile on a different device and go through her activity from the beginning of the year. There's nothing initially, just normal life stuff. Posts about her apartment, her partner, generic motivational quotes. Then around mid-year, things shift. She starts commenting on articles about child development. She joins parenting discussion groups online. She starts watching content about child psychology. And gradually, the posts about bad parenting start appearing with more frequency. I remember what happened earlier that year. My spouse mentioned to her that our kid had been struggling a bit at school. Nothing serious. A behavioral issue that we were already addressing with the school and a professional. My spouse confided in her because she was there, and my spouse thought it would be fine. That information was supposed to stay between us. Apparently, that was the starting point for all of this. I pieced together the timeline and it's clear. My spouse shared something private and she ran with it. She turned a normal parenting challenge into ammunition. She's been building a narrative around it for months. Every vague post, every comment about negligent parents, every story about children in bad situations, it all connects back to that one conversation. What really gets me is the audacity of it. She's posting this public criticism of me while I'm literally paying for her life. Let me back up and explain the financial situation because this is where it gets relevant. About 3 years ago, she moved in with her partner and couldn't find stable work. My spouse brought it up one day and suggested we'd help her out. I wasn't thrilled about it, but I went along with it because family and whatever. We started sending her $800 a month. Not a small amount. That's real money. On top of that, we've been covering her share of family events, helping her with unexpected expenses. And when she needed a car, I co-signed the loan because her credit wasn't good enough on her own. Over the 3 years, that adds up to something like $36,000. More if you count everything else. Fast forward to about a year ago. Her partner lost his job. Instead of both of them tightening their belts, she called my spouse in a panic and basically demanded we increase the support. I said no. That's when things got tense. She made a comment about how some people just aren't built for responsibility, which is ironic considering she's the one who can't hold down a job or manage her own finances. But I let it go. I figured it was just frustration from her situation. Apparently, I should have paid more attention. Now I'm sitting here with screenshots of months of public trash talking, knowing that family members are questioning whether I'm a good parent, and my spouse is acting like this is something we can just smooth over if we don't make a big deal out of it. That's not happening. I call her directly. I don't dance around it. Why are you posting about bad parenting all over social media? She denies it at first. She says she's just venting in general, that it's not about me specifically. I pull up specific posts and ask her to explain how they connect to information only she would know. The timeline, the details, the way she frames things. She shifts tactics. Now it's about how she was struggling and needed an outlet. How she didn't mean anything personal. How I'm being too sensitive. Then she adds something about how maybe if I was more secure in my parenting, this wouldn't bother me so much. That's when I know this conversation isn't going anywhere productive. I tell her we'll talk about it later, and hung up. My spouse wants to smooth things over, wants to have a family dinner or something. Hash it out, move past it. I shut that down immediately. I'm not interested in reconciliation or excuses or whatever bonding experience my spouse thinks is going to fix this. This person has been publicly attacking my character as a parent while I've been financially supporting her. That's not something you smooth over. I tell my spouse straight up, the money stops. The $800 a month, the co-signed loan, all of it. We're done. My spouse hesitates, says it's not fair to punish her for struggling. I point out that we're not punishing anyone. We're simply no longer financing someone who actively works against us. That's a reasonable boundary. We go back and forth on this for a while, but I don't back down. Eventually, my spouse agrees. They're not happy about it, but they understand. The financial support is going to end. The next day, I send her a message. Short and factual. Her response comes within hours. She cycles through the usual repertoire. Denial, victim mentality, guilt tripping. She asks what she ever did wrong. Says she was just struggling. Asks if this is really how we repay years of family relationship. The tone is manipulative, designed to make my spouse feel guilty. I don't respond. Neither does my spouse. After I remind them what this person has been saying about them behind closed doors. We contact our estate planning contact the next day. I didn't go into details about the reasoning. I just made it clear that my sister-in-law is being removed from the will. We've been meaning to update things anyway. And this is the catalyst. The changes are processed. She tries calling a few times. My spouse and I both decline the calls. Then she switches to texting our parents, claiming she's being cut off and punished for struggling. She leaves out the months of public character assassination entirely. She frames it like my spouse and I woke up one day and decided to be cruel to her. She doesn't show up the next family gathering, claims it's because she's been cut off, which is a lie. The financial support ending wouldn't prevent her from attending events. It's a manipulation tactic. She wants people to think we've made her destitute, that we're so cruel we've exited her from the family. The reality is simpler. We stopped paying for her life, and she's struggling with that. I found out later that she's been spreading different versions of this story to different people. To some people, she's portrayed herself as a victim of our cruelty. To others, she acted like nothing happened, and we're the ones being dramatic. So that's where we are. Cutting her off and taking her out of the will isn't cruel, it's overdue. She spent years freeloading while throwing daggers, and now she's mad that reality finally hit her like the consequences of her own laziness and entitlement. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since we cut off the financial support and updated the will. I haven't heard from her directly, which is fine. That's the point. But I'm hearing about her in roundabout ways, and the picture that's emerging is not one of someone reflecting on their choices. My spouse mentions that they ran into someone at a social event who knows her. This person brought up that she'd been telling people at gatherings that we ruined her life by cutting off financial support. But here's where it gets interesting. She's not acknowledging the public attacks at all. Instead, she's created a completely different narrative. She's claiming we never actually helped her, that she had to move in with us like we forced her, that we've always been resentful about supporting her, and we use this as an excuse to finally abandon her. None of that is true. We offered to help. She accepted it for 3 years, and we were fine with it until she started publicly attacking my character. But that's not the version she's distributing. The person my spouse ran into also mentioned something else. She's been telling people that I'm jealous of her success. This is objectively ridiculous because she's unemployed and has been for most of the time we've been supporting her. But that's the narrative, that we're threatened by her, that we wanted to keep her down financially, that we're controlling. I don't respond to any of this. There's nothing to respond to, but I start paying closer attention to what's actually happening with her situation. My spouse gets a message from their parents. She visited them and told them a completely different version of events than what she's been telling other people. To our parents, she claimed that we threatened to cut her off, and that we've never been supportive, and that the financial help was always conditional and grudging. She's embedded false information into the family narrative now. Our parents don't have the full context, so they're believing parts of it. They're not pressuring my spouse to fix this, to understand where she's coming from, to be more compassionate. It's frustrating because my spouse is a compassionate person and they're being manipulated into feeling guilty. My spouse's sibling reaches out again, this time with a different request. Our sister-in-law has been pressuring them for money. They're telling my spouse that she's framed it as a temporary loan, that she's claiming she's trying to get back on her feet, and that she specifically emphasized that this is separate from the issue with us. This is new. She moved from attacking us publicly to systematically working through the family tree asking for money. My spouse's sibling declines her request and mentions it to my spouse for transparency. Good decision on their part. A few days later, my spouse's other sibling, not the same one, reaches out with something different. Our sister-in-law has been pressuring them as well, but with a new angle. She's been telling them that my spouse is controlled by me, that if my spouse really cared, they'd override my decision and resume the financial support. My spouse finds this offensive, which is good. They're starting to see the manipulation for what it is. My spouse explicitly tells her to stop contacting them, to stop trying to work around us, to stop spreading narratives about our marriage. She doesn't stop. She just gets quieter about it. About 3 weeks after the initial cutoff, my spouse gets another call, this time from her ex-partner again. He's calling with different news this time. They're breaking up. He's moving out. He explains that he's discovered she's been lying to him about multiple aspects of their relationship, not just us. Her version of events about what happened with us doesn't match what he's pieced together from talking to my spouse and from seeing the evidence. And more importantly, her constant victim mentality and blame shifting have made the relationship unsustainable. A few days later, my sister-in-law attempts to reach out to my spouse one more time, not asking for money directly this time. She's learned that doesn't work. Instead, she's asking if they can just talk and move past this. My spouse declines. They're not interested in the conversation that's just going to be another attempt at manipulation. Our parents reach out to us about a week later. They have apparently had a conversation with her where she tried the same manipulation on them and that she's tried on everyone else. She asked if they could talk to us on her behalf, if they could convince us to be reasonable. Our parents declined. They've realized that she's been dishonest about the situation. They're not going to play mediator. At this point, I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just observing her create consequences for herself through her own choices and dishonesty. And that's where it's going to stay. Update 2. It's been about 2 months since we cut off the financial support. The dust has settled in our immediate circle, and life has mostly moved on. We're not thinking about her constantly anymore. She's just become someone we used to help who we no longer do business with. Then I get a call from my spouse's parent. Our sister-in-law has been evicted. Not in the immediate sense where she's on the street tomorrow, but the formal notice has been served. She and her ex-partner were renting, and without the $800 we were sending monthly, they couldn't keep up with their portion of the rent. The breakup accelerated things. When he moved out, the landlord realized they weren't going to make it work, and now there's a formal eviction process underway. Our parent-in-law was calling to see if we'd reconsider, if we'd help her avoid the eviction. My spouse says no. They're firm about it. We have our own family to take care of. We have our own financial goals. We're not going to destabilize our situation because she made poor choices. A week passes. Then I found out through a conversation with someone who knows her that she'd been calling various family members asking if she can move in with them temporarily while she figures out her housing situation. She's had no luck. People remember that she spent 3 years being financially supported by us, and the moment that support ended, she turned on us publicly. They're not eager to open their homes to her. She's also been telling me different stories about why she's being evicted. To some people, it's because the landlord was unfair and the rent was raised suddenly. To others, it's because her ex-partner abandoned her and stuck her with the full rent. None of these narratives involve her acknowledging that she lost a major income stream because of her own actions. Fast forward about 10 days. The eviction is moving forward. Our sister-in-law is starting to panic. She's contacting more family members. She's asking for money directly this time, not even pretending it's a loan. She needs deposits. She needs to secure a new place. She needs help with moving costs. Some family members are giving her small amounts of money. $50 here, $100 there. It's not going to solve her housing problem, but it's enough to make her think she can get through this by working the family network. Our parents give her some money. I'm not thrilled about it, but it's their choice. My spouse is bothered by it because they feel like our parents are undermining the boundary we set. I remind them that our parents can do what they want with their own money. What matters is that we're consistent with our own decision. Around this time, I discover something interesting. She's been applying for apartments under her ex-partner's name and claiming that he's the leaseholder, with her as an occupant. This is because her rental history now includes an eviction, which makes her a risky tenant on her own. She's trying to work around the system because she can't qualify on her own merits. 3 weeks into the eviction process, she finally gets approved for a new apartment. It's cheaper than where she was living. It's in a less desirable area, but she has a place. The narrative that emerges from her, naturally, is that the new apartment is temporary while she rebuilds. She's positioning this as a setback that she's temporarily enduring, not as a direct consequence of her own actions. She moves out of the old place with help from a friend. No one in our family is asked to help with the move, and I'm grateful for that. We would have declined anyway. Our kids are unaware of any of this. They go about their lives and their lives are good. They're thriving in school. They're healthy. They're happy. The narrative our sister-in-law tried to build about our parenting being neglectful has zero impact on our family because it was never true in the first place. Let's be real. She spent years freeloading off of you, publicly throwing shade and spinning every story to make herself look like a martyr. And now, eviction notices, broke, scrambling for a place, lying to landlords, and begging relatives to help. All entirely self-inflicted. She acted like a queen in everyone else's wallet. And the moment the funding stopped, the reality smacked her, and hard. No one is coming to save her, and she's finally learning that manipulating people for 3 years doesn't earn you sympathy. It earns you flat on your butt. She's only realizing too late that the world doesn't owe her a bailout. What do you make of this? What would you have done? And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time. And please put your chair back where you found it.